So Team Affinity Season 5 comes Friday, and I've been doing a top 10 tier list of all of the best players at each position. I asked you guys which position you wanted to see next in my community poll, and most of you guys said you want to see middle infield. So today we are going to be talking about shortstops and second basemen. These positions are pretty stacked, but also there aren't that many really good runaway options at the end game here. So we have a lot of cards to cover, a lot of cards we need to discuss in detail today. Let's get into it. So a couple of things before we get into the list. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to be very brief with this. These are my opinions. These are from my experience. These are things that I personally look for in attributes. And these lists are more so a recommendation of which cards you should be trying. These are just my opinions. Disagree? Let me know in the comments section. And also, I do have these split into 3 different lists like we did with the first baseman. I have all shortstops, all primary shortstops. I have second base, including secondaries. And I have a combined list of all the middle infielders, because in my opinion, you should be choosing 2 of the best middle infielders you have in general and find some way to arrange them, whether they're both shortstops, whether they have some secondaries. You're just going to find some way to get those guys in your lineup, because I almost compare them very similarly. But without further ado, let's go into the shortstops. So I'm keeping this all primaries because there are a lot of very good primary shortstops, and most of the time you're going to be able to play a good fielding shortstop at short in the primary. There aren't that many cards that are really better as a secondary shortstop. There are some that we'll talk about, but I'm going to keep the shortstop tier list at just primaries. Trust me, there's a reason for all of it. We'll combine it all in the end. Trust me. So at number 10, I have the 99 finest Javier Baez. Very good card versus lefties. Pretty solid versus right. The diamond fielding, 80 speed. It's pretty well-rounded. I know a lot of people like Javi Baez. So 98 and 95 versus right could be a little better, but you know, this card is very versatile. You can use him all over the field, and he's definitely a very fun card. I know a lot of people like him. At number 9, I have Tim Anderson, and the main reason I have him over Javi, the defense is maybe exactly the same or slightly worse, or maybe the speed is a little less valuable, but the bat versus righties is better, and also he's basically just as good versus lefties. He also gets quirks, so he gets Road Warrior, Night Player, Unfazed, and Dead Red, all very good hitting quirks. Help make a hitter more valuable. But this is a very solid card if you haven't used him that much, if you're looking for a solid shortstop. At number 8, I have the 98 Willy Adames Finest, which is actually released on Tuesday this week. This is made before the Finest comes out on Thursday and Friday, so we have to include some of these cards in at this point. And Willy Adames seems like a very well-rounded shortstop. He has well-rounded hitting, all above 100 hitting attributes, gold fielding with a good arm, which is valuable at shortstop, and his speed is solid. I like his swing a lot. I loved his early game 42 series card. He gets some quirks as well, and I personally would use him over some of those other shortstops because the attributes versus righties are basically just as good, and the arm strength is great, and his swing is really good. He's one of those swings that's really good. At number 7, I have Francisco Lindor. This is a card I have not used the most myself. He's very valuable as a switch hitter, and is very good versus both sides. He's very close to another shortstop we're going to talk about in just a second. But what makes Lindor very great is the defense, the solid arm strength, the well-rounded speed. He's a nice, well-rounded shortstop card if you're looking for that switch hitter type in your lineup. He plays pretty well. Probably could have guessed this, but at number 6, I have Wander Franco. I personally have him slightly above Lindor because 1 or 2, 3 parallels get some diamond defense, but he also maintains the gold. The arm strength is basically better than Lindor's. The speed is more valuable on this card. He does take a small sacrifice in power versus lefties, and the power versus right is kind of close. I like Wander. I know a lot of people have stuck out Wander for a while here. They're very close, but I would slightly give the edge to Wander if it were up to me. At number 5, I have Trey Turner, and yes, I still have this card as a top 5 shortstop in the game. The defense is definitely the sacrifice for this card, but he just mashes the ball. He is probably one of, if not the best hitting shortstop on the list. And the speed is so valuable for stealing bases, taking the extra base. You're also using him in other positions. Very good card that I would really recommend using if you really don't have any options. I got burnt out on him and haven't used him the most, but you know, this card still mashes to this day. At number 4, I have Ernie Banks, and you may think this card would be higher on the list. That's what I was expecting, but honestly, the big thing with Ernie is the contact versus righty. 104 is solid. But there's definitely going to be better. The fielding is great. The arm strength is good, but he's a little slow at short. If he had like a really, really good arm and like maybe above 60 speed, then this card would probably be top 3. But at shortstop position where defense is really valuable, yes, he is a solid fielder, but he just isn't going to have as much range. And the bat is definitely good. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like this Ernie card could have been a little better than what he actually is. But still, number 4 is more than fair. At number 3, I have the new finest Bo Bichette. And the only reason he is here is just because his defense is kind of mid-tier with solid speed. But you're going to be using this card for the bet. The contact is top tier versus both sides. He's got great power. Bo's swing this year feels really good. His swing just feels great, and he also gets home body and dead red since he is a finest card. So he gets that little benefit of quirks, which I honestly would use his bet and have that extra speed at shortstop over the Ernie Banks better defender type. I think this card is really good, especially on Hall of Fame and Legend difficulty where the contact is nice. At 2, I have Honus Wagner, and a lot of people hit really well with them. I just think the combination of contact, very solid power, diamond fielding, and high level speed, this card just does not have a weakness. The only maybe weakness on him is the power, but 91, 92 is more than enough. And I feel like his swing just makes the ball absolutely fly off the bat. Like, I've got a great OPS with him for a shortstop and 90 power. Love this card. Definitely a top 2 shortstop. And yes, my number 1 shortstop in the game right now is the postseason Corey Seager. As of right now, before Finest and all of them come out, I think he's the most valuable option despite the slight decrease in defense. Mostly the arm strength is really the issue. The hitting is too good in this card. Versus righties, he has elite level hitting, contact, and power wise. Even versus lefties, he actually has the reverse splits. His swing plays well. He is 100% worth the sacrifice in the speed and defense. Also, a couple quirks, which makes him a really valuable bet. And if you don't hit that well with your shortstop, you should try Seager and just go all in on the bet. Because gold is going to be good enough to make most plays. Silver would be scary, like with Trey Turner. But at least Seager, he's got gold. The arm strength is okay. It's going to be a little weak, but it gets the job done. He may be better off being moved into secondary, though, but find a way to get this card in your lineup at least before Friday when Finest drops. He's my number 1 shortstop. Now we're going to talk about second base, and the thing with second base is that there are far less options, especially primary-wise. There isn't much value in me talking to top 10 primary second baseman because most people don't even use a primary at second base. A lot of people will use a shortstop at a secondary, someone who is an outfielder with a secondary. So we're going to include secondaries other than shortstop, because I'm going to combine them all in the end into one common tier list so you could choose 2 middle infielders. But I do want to talk about players that are great options at second base and not as much so at shortstop if you're looking for good cards. So at number 10, I actually have a little bit of an underrated card. Garrett Hampson tops now card. He has that high contact. He has that Honus Wagner type hitting, which is a little less contact. Obviously a little less vision, but he has the diamond fielding at his primary and center, so we'll have gold at second. High speed. This card is actually a great starter card. Pretty fun second base option if you're starting off the game looking for a beginner card. At number 9, I have Matt Carpenter, which honestly, maybe even be a little low for him. The power is legit. The contact versus both sides is top tier. 100 and 110 is definitely good. He is a lefty bat as well, so if you're looking for a lefty, that is a good place to add him. He's just slow. And a slow speed at second isn't the best. A lot of people like to use second base to have some speed. Get that extra like contacty slappy guy. He's not the best second base option in my mind, especially with like 43 speed, no stealing ability, and he's gonna have like the base silver defense. At number 8, I have the postseason Tommy Edman, and yes, I actually have Tommy Edman this high. Switch hitter with good speed, great stealing. He's gonna have diamond fielding there. This card actually does slap a bit. A lot of people have told me this card hits really well. He's like that Wade Boggs type hitter, but a switch hitter. His swing is really good. This card is worth a try if you like these contacty type players. Great second base option if you're looking for a switch hitter. At number 7, yes, all the way down to number 7, I have one of the highest overall primary second baseman, Craig Biggio. And honestly, this card is solid. I think he's more valuable as a catcher, to be honest with you, to speed. But he is still a good hitter. He's got the Jackie Robinson type hitting attributes. With gold defense at second, just a couple parallels gets him the diamond. This card actually is an underrated card. He does slap and hit the ball very hard. If you like that Honus Wagner type hitter, Craig Biggio is definitely that type of card. At number 6, I have the Jazz Chisholm tops now card. Again, he gets the value of being a left-handed bat like Carpenter, but he actually does very well contact and power-wise versus both sides. Versus righties, contact is better than Carpenter. The only thing this card lacks a little bit is the vision. Gold defense is more than enough at second. That speed is great. Jazz Chisholm is just a very fun card if you're looking for a second baseman, and very, very worth the try if you're looking for that type of position, especially when you're starting off the game and you're just trying a bunch of new cards at once. At number 5, yes, I have Alfonso Soriano here. I loved Soriano. I hit very well with this card for the start of the year. Just the contact is a little bit low. That's the only downside of him. But that small sacrifice in contact really brings good power, great defense even at second base, and the speed, which a lot of people like at second base. Definitely a viable card still at this point in the game, especially if you've been using him for a while like me and having parallel 5. He just has some slight issues with the timing of his swing. People don't like his stride and have a tough time hitting with him at points. That's the only reason he's not really like a top couple second baseman for me. At number 4, I finally have the highest rated primary second baseman, Jackie Robinson. I love Jackie. Card actually hit for some really crazy pop for me. The speed, the defense, the contact. He's very close to Honus Wagner all around. He really is, but just isn't there. It's a little short on the power, a little short on the defense in comparison to Honus, but Jackie is still a great top tier option if you're someone that is stuck by him all this time. And for you bunt heads out there, this is probably your guy to use. Next, we're going to talk about some of the newer released cards. The postseason Chris Taylor. I think he's a very valuable second base option for, again, the top tier level of contact and power. That's basically Corey Seager. Plus, again, he does get some quirks, which makes Chris Taylor especially valuable. The thing is with Taylor, that's division's a little low. Doesn't have that much speed in comparison to our other options. And he'll have like low gold fielding at second. But if you're looking for a second baseman that's easy to earn, this is a must try. I mean, the power is too good to deny, especially in the middle infield positions. At number 2, I have Chris Taylor's equivalent, Kike Hernandez. I like Kike a lot. Honestly, it's very close to the number 1 second baseman in my eyes. Just because the contact is even better on Kike. The power is just a little bit worse versus lefties, but really good versus righties. The vision is better than Taylor's. He has better defense. Only a few parallels would get him diamond in his secondaries. He does take a little bit of a sacrifice in speed, but Kike can absolutely mash if you're looking for that middle infielder type. And number 1, I have Mookie Betts. Yes, I haven't done the best with him, and I really wanted to put him number 2 behind Kike, but I think I do have to put him number 1. The defense is top tier at second base. He's going to have diamond there basically off the rip. The speed is solid. There isn't really a weakness on him. This is just, for me, I would like a little more power than 101 on his base card versus righties, since you face him most of the time. But a lot of people have been using Mookie for a bit, especially if you have him high parallel. He definitely is still worth that small sacrifice. He's really good versus lefties. I've been using him for a while, and I eventually moved him to the bench, and he could be a little better for me, but overall, I do still like this card. He's definitely deserving of the top second baseman. Now, I'm going to combine the 2 lists, the shortstops and the second baseman, and rank them all overall. So now you can get a gauge of which 2 you should use, whether you play one at short, whether you play one at second, and find some way to get them in your lineup based off this top 10 list I'm going to make. I'm going to speed through the combined list so you can hear my thoughts. At number 10, I think Lindor is definitely a good spot for this. I would especially play him at second base with the diamond defense he gets there and the weaker arm if you're going to use him and Wander Franco, but he definitely is a great middle infield option still amongst all of these. And again, just above him, I have Wander Franco. I like Wander more as a shortstop, especially when he gets the diamond defense because his arm strength is better and his speed is more of a value, but him and Lindor are basically one in each other. Keep Wander at his primary at short if you have him past parallel 3 to keep that diamond defense. At number 8, I have Trey Turner. Honestly, this card is very viable in center field, but also I would hide him out at second base when you can. Even though he'll have silver defense there, you could get away with using the worst defender there at second, especially with his speed. I would avoid using him at shortstop at all costs. I think having that defense there is very valuable, but if you have to, you can still get away with using him. At number 7, I have Ernie Banks. The defense is really the big plus on this card, and the bat is definitely solid, but keep in mind the sacrifice and speed isn't the best. Then number 6, I have the finest Bo Bichette. I would keep Bo at short just because he maintains gold, but it wouldn't be bad to move him at second base at parallel 2 or after because he'd still have gold defense there. The arm strength would be kind of hidden there, and it's going to be a good end game spot for him. That bat is really good and worth getting in your lineup whenever you can. Then at number 5, I have Chris Taylor. Whether you play him at short or second, the defense is going to be the same. I would say second base is probably the better spot for him of the 2. You could play him at short though, because he does have the speed. I haven't used him enough, but this card is definitely very solid. I would use him over a lot of the primary shortstops and second basemen we have in the game right now. Then number 4, I have Honus Wagner. Definitely a top tier second base or shortstop option. I would prefer to keep him at short though, with the diamond defense, good arm, and high speed. But again, you can move him around if you need to, if you have another option you like. Then at number 3, I have Kike Hernandez. Again, I have a tough time not putting him in the top few, but even still, I think the bat is very good, especially versus righties. He has reverse splits. He'll have gold defense at shortstop or second. Probably a better second baseman because he's a little slower. Better to have that at second and short. But again, at short, he'll be more than fine, especially with that arm strength he has. Then at number 2, I have Corey Seager. I think his bat is definitely very valuable. Probably slide him at second base. We can hide that arm strength. He'll still have gold defense at either position. And I think he's better off as a second baseman or even third base option. That bat is too good to deny though, especially for a lefty, when a lot of good outfielders in the game right now are righties. Being a lefty would be very nice. And then number 1, I have Mookie Betts again. I think he's the best overall middle infielder. If you get him, you may as well use him. But if you don't like him, Seager, Kike, Honus, Taylor, like anyone in the top 10 is very close to him. So if you don't like Mookie, kind of like me, you don't have to use him. But overall, this card really brings all of the elements to the table. He has the better power than like a Honus Wagner. He has a top tier contact, diamond defense wherever, at second base. But yeah, that's the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this was a lot. Hopefully the top 10s were valuable to you. And obviously with the finest coming out this week, this probably will be the last top 10 video we do before the finest drops. So this will be the last of this little series we're gonna do. Friday, we're gonna be doing all my first impressions on the cards. And then over the weekend, we'll be going through showing you how to complete Team Affinity in the most efficient way as possible and go through which cards are the best overall in the game next week in some big tier list, because it's one of the last big content drops of MLB 21. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you liked the video. If you did, I appreciate you sitting and listening to me ramble on. And we'll be back again tomorrow and Friday and all those days throughout the week. More videos. You have a great rest of your day. Deuces.